Welcome to Africulture with yours truly, Larva McAfee, aka Nicole, with my special guest, Togbi Ngoyifia of Aflawu, Gakli, Grand Lomé, where we discuss Africulture. It is all about Africulture. Let's get it started.
Come and have a unique experience in Dallas, Texas.
Ago na miapete milemiakpe bemifa 32nd annual Sienna Convention le Dallas Fort Worth. Dallas. Big D. Mifa yafa pongtepe. Aha. Sienna 2025. Mano bobo edolo. Mifa midwaza. We want me at the Cornwall Friday evening. Sunday me our picnic. Me our church service. And all les zanzazata miniva.
Tata nyo play before you, mi do bonso anamilo. Mi do bonso anami apata, mi de kukuna mi be mi klo mi ape famille ovalo. Mi klo mi ape famille o mi afa po Dallas da, mi ado azan. Azalo!
Azase!
Azale kongbe!
Azale wawa!
Hello and salut, bonsoir, and dona mesiame. Welcome to Africulture right here on Sienna TV and Chatting with Nicole. I am so happy that you are here with us today. I thank you for joining us. It is another brand new, Sunday. We are so grateful to be breathing today. We are so grateful to be live with you today. So I thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. We thank the Lord for His mercy and grace, and we submit everything in His hands to let His will be done today. Miato fufunyi dadanyi novinyo enonyo etonyo miawezon kakalo miaweva Africulture wetroya migbava miapo miave enia culture oji enyake gbali miasiegbe ni mia discuter mi dakpe na ma obe kplo mi va wetroya mi lagbe wetroya donc mi dakpe ne emi son sian le asidemne be ba no mia ji ne ba kpelo mia ntie nu sian ba yi mi bio ma obe nu veve le emwaji egbe a egbea togbi mi nyabe togbi le ho ele due e bazan ele ho ebe doctora ole ne doctora sokeva ya yo na togbi donc edwazan sokeva ya egbea ele ho amedro donc togbi mle kudo mi egbe vo egbea ni kudo Alfred Amazu eva kudo me egbea mi la discuter nyaro le mi a discuter proche la kebe va ni sorea mi brobe ndole a mi la va discuter après donc a mi la discuter egbevoa mi mle ja do begbe o yen kare mi ja do begbe go gbogbo to a English me mi le ja wele donc a mi so mi abe English be suswa so va fiolo e mi la do English egbe voa mda pe na mi sa mi ne mi le kame kudo mi amere pe mi le kame wa mi na mi anya mi blana me kom le kame wa mi na ne wa joindre mi partager lien kudo ne wa chan wa joindre mi ne enu komi le gblonya parce que nya ke mi le ja gblonya le vevere enya ke mi le ja gblonya gbe a mi le ja gblonya so enu ya préparation na ne mi gbava le wa endo le ke mi do la wo surtout ne mi la America lo mi le Europa ona mi opportunité bena ne mi le odoa garo mo ami sona gadanare o hona ga sbe ole enia ole bogadare mi bona gadare na fire garo mi plein assurance garo mo ga me ani mi gbava le wa mi abe vio o latin ma va se le mi abe vio jio mi abe vi ola ten va kpedo mianti e ola te gawan la ten va kpedo mianti ne mi avi ola so mi ola ko mi abe ko so ya hoyo fi ole ja di mi lo e nu okpata dépense okpata ke le mi asi e so kpenado mianti donc voilà opportunité wa le mi asi wa mi wona mi Africa to surtout mi wona donc Alfred la va discuter wan kudo mi ana mi shua ke le mi asia le ke mi la no wo no do gamea ne mi gba value you know ne nyibe mi gba value wa e kafla ne mi gba value wa ngba va nyi tu kara gande le mi abe vi ojo ku mi abe fami ojo donc ele ja expliquer no pata na mi egbe e mi gado mo ami jina la gbon ku be yan bo kwa ele agbeto be ele agbeto mi do la ekru le agbeme ekua ele mi anti mi apota mi le jaba ku gbere ka donc mi vone voilà mi do la no vent mi do la vent mi la so préparer ni mi préparer nyo ke ne va jopo amesi ame amere pe mgbanya na nkebele jao amesi ame no na problème de viola no problème famille opota la no problème donc egbe mi akpla no vire ni mi akpobele ke no mama mi la no weroma donc ami no mwaji ne mi va kamea na make mi nyam de ku mi gbla na mi wo commentaire da mi anya fi ke mi le soa ga mi amila wo nu ya na mi lo ne amere pe mi le kamea mi partager kui ne e show agba vo chan mi partager ku do amu ga mi amu chan wanya enya ke mi le gblo parce que le veve de da mi apota lo ndakpe na mi be mi le mwaji ku do mi guys today I was saying Togbi is actually, you know, Togbi told us last week that he's getting his PhD. They presented him with, you know, his PhD, and he was going to do it in Canada, but it didn't happen in Canada. But he's doing it today. I mean, he did it yesterday. So he had a celebration yesterday. He's you know, it was this was his flyers. So Togbi got honored yesterday. When he comes back, we're gonna share the videos with you. But for now, since he's not here, I don't want to share any videos. But Togbi got his ceremony yesterday. You know, he got his diploma and everything yesterday. So he's gonna come and discuss that with us. So we give him a break today. So he's having people over. He's having guests, taking care of his guests today. So he needs to rest. Hopefully next week he can join us so that we can discuss, you know, he can tell us more about this, you know, very important honor that he got. A lot of people did go there. I heard, you know, I had people represented me, and I know that there are people who came from Europe. There are people who come from other countries to be there for him. So it's a big deal for Togbi. So let's all congratulate Togbi on this, you know, amazing award that he received yesterday. Very, very well deserved. And today, we know that it is Sunday, but Thursday was Ghana independence. So we want to also wish happy Independence Day to all our Ghanaian, all of us. We want to say happy Independence Day. I have some videos, but I'm not able to play them. You know, I'm trying to share, but it's not working. So I know you guys seen a lot of videos. Yesterday was one of the celebration. I didn't go. I sit that out. Ghana, Georgia, in Atlanta here, they did a celebration yesterday. I'd sit that one out. Otherwise, I would have had some videos for you, but I do have some videos I'm going to share with you later. So you, my family, Ghanaian, you know, all of us, I want to wish us, you know, happy Independence Day. It's been 68 years and counting. So we want to say happy Independence Day for everybody. So today, as I was saying, since Togbi is out, Alfred is here. You know, Alfred been here before. You know him. I'm going to bring him up. Alfred is going to talk to us about, we are going to talk about exit strategy. We know how we don't want to talk about exit strategy, because exit, when we're talking about exit, we're talking about death, you know, at the end of our lives. And we don't like to talk about that, but death is part of life. You know, we all going to go one day. We just don't know when. So, and it is difficult to plan it, because again, it's death. We don't want to talk about it. So Alfred is here. He's going to give us some pointers. He's going to teach us and encourage us. So that we need to take care of this. It is something that we need to think about. And when we live abroad, Europe or in America, there are opportunities for us that we don't take advantage of. And we have to tap into those advantages, those opportunities, so that when this happens to us, our children and our family don't get stuck, and have to go planning or creating GoFundMe and struggling trying to figure out what to do. It's not just the money part, it's just the peace of mind part as well, part of all these exit strategies. So Alfred is here. I'm going to bring him, and we have a lot to talk about. So I'm going to bring him and we can dive in. But thank you very much for being here. If you're on the call, if you're on the line, I want you to share this link with everyone. Again, we're just learning. We have to learn and we have to share with one another. That's the whole point that we are doing this. So, I mean, knowledge is the keys, right? So if you have it, you need to share with your brother, your sister, your friends. We need to share. So I want you guys, if you're online, share with everyone you know. Invite other people to join us. Let us know where you're joining from so that we can learn together. But let me bring in Alfred so that we can go from there. Alfred, where is on? Kaka, where is on?
Yo, Michelle, Nicole, it's good to be with you again. Yo, akpe been inviting, but me ever do a javavien. I mean, the last time I've been here, we had so much fun with our discussions, and I'm looking forward to a similar discussion today. So,
amen to that. So, I want you to introduce yourself to people who may not know you. Introduce yourself briefly so that we can dive in. But welcome back. Good to have you. I am looking forward to it myself. So, introduce yourself to those who may not know you as of yet.
All right. So my name is ALFRED AMAZU, as you've mentioned. I'm originally from Aflau. My dad is actually from Kome in Benin. My mom is from Keji, but I was born in Aflau and I grew up in Aflau. Attended school there, went to St. Paul Secondary School in Aflau, in Denu. And then I migrated to the United States sometime around 2002, and I've been here since. So I'm a CPA by profession. I've also just completed law school and I've taken the bar exam. So I'm waiting to hear whether I pass or not. So I can start practicing.
Okay, that's good. So,
by the way, I am also the financial secretary for Sienna, the financial controller for Sienna. So, for those my Sienna folks who
Sienna controller, you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So those of you who like, okay, why is it made in Sienna? There you go. You added in there. There you go.
Right.
You have that responsibility as well. So thank you. Thank you for coming. And I'm glad you put your law school, you put it there. You just got, and congratulations already in order. You have the exam. I know that's the hardest part, having the exam. You just had the exam. So let's pray that, your result, even if it doesn't, I'm sure that you're going to do well. So thank you for coming here to share your knowledge with us and helping us go through this. So, and I appreciate you letting them know why you are here. And people might be asking what makes you expert, right? You just gave us what makes you expert, well, to discuss this with us. So thank you for being here again. And congratulations on that as well. So, Alfred, we have a long list. I have a long list of questions here. I don't think we're going to go through all of it, but at least let's start somewhere. And we know that when we say exit strategy, people are like, okay, what do you mean by that, right? So exit mean we're all going to exit. We're talking about exiting from this earth when our days is over and we have to leave this earth. Sometimes we don't never choose when to exit. It just happens. We don't know when our exit is. We don't know when it's going to be. But it's going to happen one way or the other. It's going to happen. None of us are going to spend 1,000 years here, right? 100 years, no. So we have to talk about exit strategy. I always say that death is part of life. It is part of life. We live and we die. That's what it is. And nowadays it's happening, like people think that it's like second nature. It's like everywhere, left and right. It is happening. And Alfred, I will tell you that I have seen when somebody passed away and there's no plan. We don't know what to do. We don't know, even family members. I've been there and it's a struggle. It's a pain. It is very, very, it's a pain because you don't know. You don't know what to do. You don't know what they have. What they don't have. Sometimes they hide things from you. You have no idea what to do. So I believe that exit strategy is very, very important. So that's why I am glad that we are having this conversation. and a lot of Africans, especially us, we don't like to talk about it. We don't like to tap into these opportunities that we have. So I thank you for coming to discuss that with us today. So the topic today is exit strategy. We're talking about wills, trust, and the art the art of dying. Prepare, the way we put it. It is an art. It is an art. So I'll take it as that. So that's the topic. So we want to dive into the questions that I have here for you. Then the first question is going to be, why do many people avoid estate planning? That is just typical. It's a first question because we all avoid it. I myself, I have told myself few years ago that I was going to plan it. I have not planned it. You know what I mean? So we all avoid it. Why do we avoid it? And what is the biggest misconception about wills and trust? That's our first question to you.
Yeah, so I'm really happy that you started with this question, and you've already sort of laid the foundation for what my answer will be for the question, which is that it's a difficult, conversation to have. Just the mere fact of thinking about that, the fact that you are going to die, it's not something we are comfortable talking about. It's not something to the extent of even planning for.
Right.
So we all just die. And I don't get that we all just die without planning. We know we are going to die. Everybody knows at one point they are going to die. So it's not like it's not like you don't know, right?
Yeah.
So why we don't talk about it, especially within our community, it's something that need to change, and that's why we want to have this conversation, right? And a lot of the time people, the misconception is they need lawyers to do this, they need to spend a lot of money to do this, but I'm about to dispel that misconception. Most states today accept what we call holographic wills.
Okay.
When we say a holographic will, what it means is you can write it by yourself. You can even write it on a napkin. Matter of fact, you can tattoo it on your body. So remember back in Ghana or even in Togo, or back in our community, back in the days, you see people actually tattooing their names on their arms, right? And the reason was that they want to be identified
If something
when they
happens,
die. Right. So that by itself is some type of making a will of who you are, identifying yourself for the purposes of
when you can't do it for yourself. Yeah.
Right. So wills sort of a way of capturing your intentions as to what you want to happen to your body and what should happen to your properties. Can even be tattooed on your body if you want to. So you don't need a lawyer to tattoo it. Right?
You're right.
You can write it on a napkin. You can write it anywhere. So the conception that you need a lawyer to do this is completely inaccurate.
Right.
Now, there is a place for lawyers in the process. Sometimes when you do it yourself, you may make mistakes that will cause your intentions not to be complied with after you die. Because what usually happens is families get into a big fight once you die.
Right.
That shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. You may decide that your properties will be going to a friend rather than your children or your family members.
Right.
And when you die, usually people don't want to comply with that because
that's true.
they rather. So people think that, oh, by the way, even if I give my property to my friend while I'm alive, when I die, it automatically stays there. So there could be so many, reasons for which you do need to have a will, which should be properly executed. And you keep a copy with your lawyer if your lawyer drafted it for you. And then as things change in life, and we'll be talking about all that, as things change in life, you want to update those will. So let me kind of just wrap this part of the question up with what is required? How do you actually even get this thing started? First of all, there are ways to give property without necessarily writing a will. We call those non-probate strategies for arranging for transfer of property at death. You can do it through what we call a trust. Trust is a fiduciary relationship that you create, you will be called a settler. The settler being, the person setting the trust up, and then
Okay.
you appoint a trustee. In other words, you are transferring legal title in the property to the trustee
Okay.
to hold and manage for the beneficiary. The beneficiary will be maybe a family member, your children, or anybody you've appointed to be who receives after you pass.
Okay.
So property, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take for instance a house. There are two titles into a house. There is a legal title and there is what we call an equitable title. The equitable title is the ownership, that you own it,
Okay.
that you can use it, you can take possession of it. So what you do is you take those two titles, right? The legal, the equitable, you give the legal to the trustee to hold and be managed. So the trustee will have their name or the title itself, the title documents, but possession can be in your house. You can have the possession. You can live in the house so that when you die, the trustee will manage it for the benefit of the beneficiary.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
when you do that, the advantage is that it doesn't go to probate because it's considered an inter vivos transfer. It's considered a gift that you made while you were alive.
Okay.
So that one doesn't go through probate. Probate meaning when you die, all your properties get collated and accounted for through a court process to determine who takes and who doesn't take, right? That's what we call probate. So
Probate.
if you
Okay.
have a will, your will is going to go through probate. Now,
Okay.
if you have a trust, your trust doesn't go to probate.
Okay.
If you don't have a will or you don't have a trust, well, your properties will still go probate because as you die, we have to close your chapter. Let's put it that way.
Right.
What do we mean by that? People you owe money, your creditors, will have to come and collect their money from your estate.
Right.
And when we say people you owe money, it could be people who actually loaned you money,
Right.
or somebody who you hit with a car and they got a judgment against you.
Right.
Maybe you hit them with a car and then you die soon after,
After.
right? Or you were involved in a car accident, but it was your fault.
Right.
So after the court has rendered its decision, that person who was injured in the process become a tort creditor. So they can come for part of your assets, right?
Okay.
So whether you have a will or not, your properties will still go to probate, but you can avoid probate by doing something like a trust, or by doing, say, insurance. But remember, insurance only takes just that one piece, that insurance property that the money you've put in the insurance, the proceeds, it's
Right.
all that insurance address. But if you want to cover more than just the insurance proceeds, then you do something like a trust, which is a non-probate way of transferring assets. So that's a lot I've said. I know we are going to kind of touch on each of those as questions continue.
Okay, so we did say that the reason why we avoid it is because I think because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to talk about death. Nobody wants to talk about the day they die. Nobody wants to do it. Even though we think about it, even though we're afraid, even though we know that we want our children to be well taken care of. We want to leave something for our children, but just sitting and planning it, it is difficult to do. So we avoid it because
you have to think about you dying.
So we don't want to think about we dying. So that is what it is. Very, very. That is the thing and the misconception that you just clear out. We think that we have to spend too much money. It's going to take too much time to do. We need to know that you yourself can just write it down. I promise you, I have somebody who passed away 2022. If we only just had something, an idea of what he wanted to do, it would have made life easier. But without knowing, it took us year after year until today, we're still struggling with, this. So it is just so important. It is uncomfortable, but I promise you, when you do this, your family and your children are going to be so grateful that you did. So the next question we are going to do, what happened, right? If somebody dies without a will, I think you already touched on that a little bit, but how does estate accession? It is important. Succession, I should say, work, and what complications can arise. Okay, the question is, let me repeat that. What happens if someone died after without a will? That's one, right? And then after you answer that, the second part of it is, how does interstate secessions work? How does it work? Because these are big words. A lot of us haven't even heard about it, right? How does it work, and what complication can arise from it? Because we do have complications.
Yeah, perfect. This is a very very good and useful question. The first part is, if you die without a will, what happens, right? If you died without a will, we will say you've died interstate, right? That means dying without any provision of how your properties should be distributed.
Okay,
Let's
so
go
that's
back.
what it means. Okay.
Interstate, dying interstate. If you die with a will, then we say you died testate.
The state. Okay. Okay.
So without a will, you are dying interstate. Okay. History shows us that back in the days, whoever kills you take your property.
Huh?
Yeah.
Wait. I
So,
never heard it. I never heard of that one.
yeah, people would whoever conquers you or kill you.
Oh,
takes
yeah.
property.
So that's how they usually have these battles, that whoever. Okay. So that's
Even
way, we thank God that is way back. Okay.
Right, even wars today are fought like that, right? You go, you kill
And
the
you take
people on the
over.
land,
You
take
take
all
over.
of our the property. So that's how it used to happen. So what ended up, so people decided that when they die, they want to be buried with their property. So you could see some people die and they get buried with gold, cash, And so as that was happening, gold diggers, gold digging became a thing. Like people were digging the graves.
They'll dig the grave and get the oh my God, and get the
Get the
gold
gold.
off of you.
Exactly. So, because this is an African culture show, I like to also compare this with what happens in our African setting. Today in Africa, or even, contemporary history shows us that when somebody die, the first thing they tell you is, don't, do Joe. No, be ever war.
You have to be careful.
Ola do zo, ola wo. So a lot of us do not even go after what perhaps are things we should inherit from our parents, right?
Because we're afraid.
We are afraid that. So people die without a will. So one of the things the Western countries thought about was, let's devise a document that would, enable the dissident, the person who died, to capture their intentions while they are alive. And when they die, we would apply those intentions. That is the beginning of will. That's how wills came. Now, they also realized that people are still dying without doing that. Even though it's the will that people can use to capture their intentions, people are dying without will. So what do we do then? So for instance, in the United States, every single state have what we call the interstate statute. It's interstate descent statute. So basically, this is a statute that the states have developed to provide for people who don't have a will but die. Right?
Okay.
And so each state, now considering that we have 50 states, you can tell that each state is going to have their own statute, and those statutes may be a little different from one another.
Right.
But there is the attorney generals of all the 50 states usually come together. There is a conference that they have to put together what we call a uniform laws for the various things, like uniform law for contracts. For contract for sale of goods, we have what we call the UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. For probate, right?
Okay.
We have what we call the Uniform Probate Code.
Okay.
So the United States, most of the laws of the various states will track the Uniform Probate Code. So the Uniform Probate Code pretty much tells you exactly what will happen to you when you die. So for instance, there is what we call the English steppies. It's a way to divide your property when you die. The English statute says that if you die and you have, let's say, 2 children, right? And the 2 children also have 2 children each. The English statute says that your property will be divided between your first 2 kids.
Okay.
And then those 2 kids, if they're alive, they stop there. Let's say one of the kids die, right, before you.
Right.
Then the half of the properties that he gets goes through his lineage, like the people
his
who
children. Okay, yeah,
right.
Okay.
So that's the English steppies. So, but the English steppies what happens is, imagine that your 2 children die before you die, right? We still have to divide at your children's level.
Okay.
So that has changed so far.
Right.
What we
Okay.
now have is per capita by representation. Per
Okay.
capita by representation is what the Uniform Probate Code actually proposes, and most states have that. So we call it the majority rule. The way it works is that we look at the dissidents' children, the children we call legally, we call them issues. So we look at the dissidents' issues, right?
Okay.
And we find where there are surviving issues. That will be the level at which we divide. So imagine that I'm Kofi, I have and I'm the descendant, right? I'm the one who died. My children are A and B, right? They both died before me.
Okay.
And then they have kids D, C, E, Y, Z, right? Each of them have 2 kids. We will skip the A, B, which are my children, and go to my grandkids level and divide at my grandkids level. Right. So that is the majority rule now. Now, imagine that you don't have any grandkids, you don't have any kids. You were, you were not married, you have no kids, and you die. Then we go through the consanguinity table, which is supposed to be your extended family. Right. So with extended family, we go first to your mother and your father level.
Okay.
If your father and your mother are not living, then we go to, your mother's mothers and your mother's father's level, right?
Okay. Okay.
So we go your mother, your parents, your grandparents. And after your grandparents, if nobody is leaving, the property escheats to the state. When we say escheats to the state, meaning the state will just take it.
Yeah, they'll just own it. Yeah.
They will just own it. So that is how the distribution happens along the family line. Now,
okay.
What about if you're married and you die? You die without a will. You're married, you die without a will. A couple of things will happen. If your wife has children with you, and they are the only children you have, 100% of your property goes to your wife.
Okay.
Unless, say, your mother or father is alive. If your mother or father is alive, then some states will give you 50% of the properties, and whatever is left. And then some states will give you, let's say, 50% after you've taken the first 300,000, and whatever is left is distributed between your family. Now,
okay.
Let's say you have children with this wife, but you also have children outside, right? Before you have others with your wife. So you and your wife have one kid, but you have a
Two
kid
more
from
somewhere.
outside.
Yeah, before you got married.
Okay, so some states your wife will get either 33% after the first $300,000. Some states will give $225,000, and then the rest is distributed between the children using either English steppies or per capita by representation, as we previously discussed. Now, let's say you die, but your wife has a kid from outside. And you have kids with your wife. There's something we call stepmother syndrome, which is what it means is that there is the fear that the stepmother, which is your wife, right, who survived you, may not use your properties to support your kid, but will use it to support other kids of her own, right? So they make her either take, again, 25%. I'm saying 25, 33%, and the rest is distributed to your kids.
Okay.
So that is how it works. But there are nuances in there. So there are things like, what if you have a child? Well, we are talking about if you don't have a will, right? So we can talk about, other questions as they come along. But if you don't have a will, that is how things get distributed. If you don't have a will, the state has provisions as to how your things will be distributed, and that provision is contained in the state's interstate statute for the deceased.
And this is, and when ALFRED is talking about, and this is if the estate is involved. We know how, if we're not even taking this to the state and we want to handle it ourselves. We know how we do back home. You know how the family members will come and say that,
Right.
you promised them this and you say they're supposed to do this. And some will blame, will say that, oh, they changed your diaper when you were little, so they deserve this. Some will say that, this and this. You know how it is. So if the
Right.
state is going to handle it, that's even better. We will thank God that the state will do it, will handle it. But when it comes to family members, you have to, how the fighting is. People will go, Juju, somebody's going to do, you will die. I will kill you because of somebody else's state. You know how we fight over somebody else's state. You know how it is back home. So he just said,
Yeah.
if the state can do it, we thank
I
God.
think you mentioned something very important that I want to make sure we clarify before we move on, right? So, for instance, if you were helping somebody in life and they promised that they were going to give you a gift, they die without giving you a gift. In this country, you can actually sue the estate of that person and get the gift, especially if you relied on their promise
on that gift,
in order to provide the services that you provided for them.
Yeah.
So there are ways around that in here, but most of those contracts are supposed to be in writing. So you can contract to give a gift to somebody.
Right.
In other words, I can tell you that, hey, come and take care of me until I die, and I'm going to leave my house for you. That contract is required to be in writing by the statute of fraud. There's something we call statute of fraud, which requires certain contracts to be in writing, and that's one of them.
Yeah,
it has to be in writing.
It has to be in writing. Yeah.
Now, if it is not in writing, so lawyers will say, if there are no exceptions, there will be no lawyers, right? But there's an exception. There will be an exception to that. The exception is if you relied on the promise, whether or not it's in writing, if you relied on it to your detriment. So what do we mean by that? Let's say I'm living in New York, right? I have a nice job in New York, but I left my job to come and take care of you, right?
Because of that promise.
A house. So I've relied on that promise that you made me, even though the promise is not in writing, I've relied on it to my detriment.
Right.
Therefore, a court would enforce it, regardless of whether it's in writing or not. So reliance.
So the court will enforce it. That's what you're saying. Even though we don't have proof, even though there's no, there's no witness, even though there's no documentation, nothing signed. So if you relied on it, change your life because of that, they will approve it. That's what you're saying. The court
right. If you can establish, if you can prove detrimental reliance, the court would enforce it.
Oh, okay. All right. So that is if you don't have a will. Now we're going to talk about, if you do have, okay. You're good?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm good. I just
so I am glad the bottom line is we don't want you to be in this position. We don't want your intention to be misplaced or to be, we want what you want to happen when you die. We want that to be happening, because if you don't have it in writing, if you don't have anything set, then that's when there's a chaos. Everywhere there's a chaos. So what you intended to happen will not happen. This brand new, car that you wanted to go to, your ex-wife or your younger child, it is not going to go to, it's not going to go to them because you didn't put anything in writing. So thank you, Alfred, for that. So how can a trust be used to protect assets and minimize estate taxes? Because we talk about this and we don't talk about taxes. And we live in America. You live in America, there are taxes. There is always taxes. And they're only for the wealthy. Because sometimes we think that people who are rich, and if you don't have enough, maybe there's a certain amount, there's a minimum or maximum. We don't know. So how can that be? So the question, how can trust be used to protect assets and minimize estate taxes? And are they only for the wealthy and not for you and I? I'm not saying you're not wealthy. I'm just saying. Okay, let me just say me, like me. So,
no. I mean, so yeah, it's not necessarily for just the wealthy. It's for all of us, right? It's like you're taking steps one at a time, right? But you haven't provided for. So let's say these steps you are taking are your life. So this is your parents' life. This is your life. Your children come after that. So your parents may have acquired things that they want to leave you, which will give you a jump start on life.
Right.
If they don't leave it for you, sometimes some of the things they did, you have to go back and redo to get to the same position. So you see, most of the time, we are not able to accumulate what people call generational wealth, right? And that is because sometimes our properties fall in the wrong hands. Sometimes they just escheat to the state, or
Right.
we don't get the intentions of our the deceased enforced. So people don't get what they deserve most of the time. Now the question you ask is whether it's only for trust, for using trust to advantage yourself when it comes to taxes.
Right.
It's only something reserved for the rich. No, it's not at all. So here's the thing. When you die, there are two taxes that apply. When you die, there's going to be an estate tax. In Maryland, that is about 16% of the properties that will move through your probate.
Okay.
Properties that will be distributed to your family members. Now, there is also what we call a gift tax, which is the second piece of tax. But a gift tax, there's a provision in the tax code that says you have to donate up to, I think there's a lifetime, I don't know the number now, but at some point it used to be, as a single person, it used to be $2.7 million before it begins to attract taxes. I think if you're filing joint, you can look at that number. But there is a number that you have to donate in your lifetime before you can start to pile on taxes. Okay. So when you gift something through a trust, right? A trust is a fiduciary relationship between the settler, yourself, who's creating a trust, appointing a trustee manage the property for the benefit of the beneficiary. When you do that, we call it an inter vivos gift, or it's an inter vivos transfer. Inter vivos just means you're doing it while you are alive. It's now the opposite of inter vivos would have been testamentary. So you've done it when you died. So some people put in their lease, in their will, that when I die, I want my money put in trust for the benefit of my children. That is a testamentary trust. So an inter vivos trust, for instance, is a gift you are giving when you are alive. So the only tax you are subjected to is the gift tax. You are not subjected to death tax, or what we call estate tax, because you haven't gift that gift. That gift was not gifted when you died, right? So you avoid that 16% that you would have paid in Maryland if you had done it through testamentary. So a trust, inter vivos trust, is advantageous to anybody while they are alive. It avoids tax because they are gifting it while they are alive, unless the gift is beyond the minimum that you should be able to give, which I was telling you is either 2.7 or depending on what the number is right now. I can check on that when we're on break and close that. But that is the tax advantage that you get from creating trust. But one other thing that you gain from creating a trust is that it takes advantage of management. Sometimes we accumulate all these funds, but we are not able to manage it properly ourselves. When you give it to the trustee, the trustee now all of a sudden owes you a fiduciary relationship, part of which is they have to prudently invest that money. There is actually the Uniform Prudent Investor Act, which is a rule set of laws that control how trustees should invest the properties of the settler to the benefit of the beneficiary. So they have to be, if I recall, some of them include diversification. They have to diversify the portfolio unless the settler had provided in the trust document that diversification should not happen for a certain reason. Somebody could create a trust to say, for instance, if it's a charitable trust. So trust could be a private trust for the benefit of an individual, or it could be a charitable trust for the benefit of, say, Sienna. And the person could say, I want all the money just in the bank account invested in a certificate of deposit, which should generate, should be rolled over every 3 years, generate maybe 6%, 6% a year. And the proceeds should be used to support Sienna. In that case, the Uniform Prudent Investor Act will not necessarily come into effect. Why? Because the settler has indicated in that trust document how the money should be invested, rather than by the UPIA. So trust has so many benefits for, especially those of us who couldn't manage the funds ourselves. We give it to somebody who's a professional who can do the management for us and grow that property. That person has a duty and a responsibility to grow that property. If they don't, the beneficiaries can sue the person.
Yeah, because they're supposed to be working for you. You're paying them to work for you. They're supposed to work for your benefit. Okay.
Perfect. And another thing too is it can insulate that property from creditors. If, for instance, you have a trust that you put a spendthrift clause, there's a spendthrift clause that we can put in the trust which restricts alienation. Alienation meaning getting rid of, transferring the trust property. We can put a spendthrift trust to say we are going to only disburse the trust proceeds to the beneficiary to support their needs. So if the beneficiary owes creditors, the creditors cannot come after the trust property unless there's a distribution. Now, the beneficiary cannot force the trustee to distribute. The trustee distributes as they deem fit upon evaluation of the beneficiary's needs. So trust just is a tool that is good, especially if you have children who are drug addicts, who, if they have the property transferred to them themselves, they are probably going to deplete it, right? In the shortest possible time. Or children who have developmental problems, who are not able to manage their finances well themselves, right? You want somebody to be able to, let's say, here you are, Nicole, you build a big business. Business is successful, right? But you have gotten old and you are not able to do the management aspect of things yourself. So put it in a trust for the benefit of your children, because your children, maybe, God forbid, they have some developmental issues, so they couldn't manage those things themselves. But you want this business to stay in the family for a long time to provide for not only them, but for your grandkids in the future. So in that setting, trust becomes a better vehicle to put your business in rather than put it in a will, which if it's given to your kid, they might do it. And so
even trusted in the family members, trusted and then just assume that they'll take care of it to your liking or the way you want it to.
Right. They may not take care of it the way you want to. They may not be the best trustees. Now, a trustee doesn't necessarily have to be an expert in everything. A trustee just have to, as part of their fiduciary duties, they have to think reasonable. They have to use a reasonable care and skill that a person in their position would. If a person in their position would have delegated the investments portion of the trust to somebody else outside, then they should do that. So their duties are such that, if they can do it themselves, they are supposed to go and hire others to do it for them. They'll be responsible for making sure that the trust property is protected. Otherwise, they would be responsible personally for any losses of the trust. So if somebody say they want you to be a trustee, run.
So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and just have one more question. It looks like this is going to be 2 parts because we cannot get through all of them. So we're going to come back and finish, but I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. English. Maybe Alfred, I don't know. Take a 2 minutes break. Continue. Guys, stay there. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more on Africulture. Guys, if you have not subscribe to Siana TV, Chatting with Nicole. If you have not subscribed, please do me a favor and do that. Please share this information with everyone, because this is very, very important. This is a life-saving. This is a life-saving information. I promise you, if you apply this and consider this, you're going to put your children and your family at peace when this happens, because we know it's going to happen to all of us. We just don't know when, but we can't shy from it because it's part of life. It is part of life. Preparation is important. Even after death, it's important. So stay there. We'll be right back to carry on with Alfred.
have a unique experience in Dallas, Texas.
Ago na mi apete milemia pe be mi va 32nd annual Siena Convention le Dallas Fort Worth. Dallas. Big D. Mi va ya va pon tepe. Aha. Siena 2025 mano bobo edolo. Mi va mi dwaza. Mi wa mi at the Cornwall Friday evening. Sunday mi our picnic. Mi our church service. And all les zanzazata mi niva.
Tata nyo play before you, me do bonso anamilo. Me do bonso anami apata, me de kukuna mi be mi klo mi ape famille ovalo. Mi klo mi ape famille o mi afa po Dallas da. Mi adu azan. Azalo.
Azase.
Azale kongbe.
Azale wa.
Welcome back to AfriCulture. We are here on Siana TV and chatting with Nicole Miawez on Kaka Mibatrova. I was sharing with you a dance we just did Sunday. It was last Saturday. We were at one of our Ewaga Association, his mother's celebration of life, and I was caught to do that dance, so I couldn't say no, so we had to. I was put on the spot. So we did the gota in front of everybody. I'm trying to avoid to share too many people there for privacy reasons. But I'm gonna try and see if I can crop out just the dancing part and share more with you. But it was fun. It's fun, and I'm glad that I knew what to do. Otherwise, I would have fallen flat on my ass. But anyway, thank you for joining us again. Let us know where you're joining from. This is Siana TV. It's AfriCulture on Siana TV and Chatting Monaco. We are here. We are talking about exit strategy with ALFRED. And this is going to be two-part because we have more questions for him. So he's going to come back for us to finish. But I have one more question for him for him to explain to us so that, before we end, the session today. But again, thank you very much for joining. If you have not subscribed to the channel, share this video, like, and also check out the rest of the videos. Let's bring in ALFRED and see so that we can get through the last questions. And I hope this is helping because this is the whole thing for us doing this is to help one another, because it's very, very important that us, especially as Africans, we have to think about exit strategy because we know how we are. We know how our family are. And it's just something we have to think about. We have to consider and prepare always. So ALFRED, welcome back.
Yes, happy to be back.
All right. So I have one last question is what is the most common mistakes people make when drafting a will?
Okay, great
and
question.
how can they be avoided? So because I know we said that we can even write something on you were saying on a napkin, right? You can write it yourself. But what are the common mistake without, even though you write it on the paper, on the napkin, what are the mistakes that we normally don't think about? What are these mistakes, and how can we avoid them?
Right. This is also a very wonderful question. Before I go into it, though, I want to check the gift tax limit. It's actually 13.99 million as of 2020.
13.99 million.
Correct. So,
Okay.
but that is not a state tax. A state tax, like I said,
That's a
in
gift. That's a
yeah,
gift.
this is a gift tax. So those are two different taxes that you pay when you die, and your property has to go to probate. Probate meaning whether you have a will or whether you don't have a will. The way to avoid probate is through trust, or maybe insurance, or what we also call POD, which is pay on death. When you open an account at the bank, they ask you to put somebody's name down in
Yeah.
case you
Yeah,
die.
the trustee. Normally, that's the trustee, right?
Right. So we call that no, that's not necessarily a trustee. It's just sort of a person that your money will be given to when you die. We call it POD. Some also call it TOD, which is transfer on death or paid on death. When you die, there is a provision. When you open an account, they should have that discussion with you. If you haven't done so,
I thought it's normally beneficiary or
yeah,
I'm gonna have
beneficiary.
to read at it. Beneficiary.
That's the
That's
beneficiary.
the same thing as beneficiary. Okay.
Right.
That's the word.
Right.
The terminology is like, okay, your
Correct.
terminology different than my terminology. Our terminology is completely different. All we know is beneficiary. Beneficiary.
Right.
We
So
know.
whenever you do that,
Mhm.
then that money will not go to probate, right? When you die, it goes straight to the
It goes
person you
straight to that
designated
person.
as the taker. Therefore, that person wouldn't be paying gifts. That person wouldn't be paying gift tax unless you've exhausted your $13.9 million.
Okay.
And the person wouldn't pay estate tax neither because you gave the gift while you were alive. It
You
was
are alive.
introduced.
Okay. Okay.
So
That's one thing I learned. I didn't realize there was a death tax. I did not know that. I just know that based off the amount, it's going to be taxable unless the money was in Roth IRA, that which is completely different thing.
right.
But if the tax was not deducted, I did not realize that there was a death tax. This is something that and that is even giving us a reason why, the more reason why we have to do it before we die. Because if you do it before you die, you don't get taxed. Your children don't have to pay this death tax. If you do it before you die, that's the more reason why we have to do it while we're alive.
Now, what do we do when we are alive? Is a trust, right? Or the PODs or TODs or the insurance that would escape probate. But if you just wrote a will, right, then the will is not going to escape probate. The will has to be
We'll still
probated.
have to go through the probate. Yeah.
Therefore,
Okay.
those taxes would apply.
Right. Okay. So
Okay.
the common mistakes that we make while drafting a will, and how can we avoid them?
Perfect. So when you're drafting a will, there are something we call will formalities. A will has to be in writing. A will cannot be verbal, right? So you can't just tell somebody, hey, when I die, I want you to take my house. It's not going to work. It has to be in writing. Now, it has to be witnessed by two people. Yeah, so it has to be witnessed by two people. Some states have changed that law where once it's notarized, then it doesn't have to be witnessed by two people.
Okay.
So when we say witnessed by two people, there are two ways, there are two schools of thoughts on that. There is the presence conscious or conscious presence. And then there is I think there's a name for it. I think it's just physical presence. So the conscious presence meaning that the person can be on the phone and witness you sign the will.
Oh, okay.
They have to be in your conscious presence, which means they have to be right there when you are signing. They can't even be in the other room while you are signing it.
Watching it. Okay.
In the same room with you. But during COVID, they changed that law a little bit where you can have a screen. Let's say I'm on a hospital bed dying, and there's a screen between me while I'm signing my will, and the person witnesses is on the other side of the screen. Is that considered a conscious presence? Yes, they have sort of accepted that as conscious presence. Okay. Now, so you have to sign your will, you have to draft, it has to be witnessed by two people for it to be, enforceable. You have to have the capacity to enter into a will.
Yeah, you can be. You can be under the influence and say you are. They'll do like that. Doesn't apply. You have to be
Well,
a person.
yes, you can be, even an insane person can be, even if you have under the influence, as long as at the time you sign the will, your will, right, is not overpowered by the
By
alcohol,
somebody,
then
by something else. Okay.
by
Okay.
something else, then it should be accepted.
Yeah.
So you can be an insane person as long as the time you are signing that will, you are lucid,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can, do things on your own. Then, boom, it qualifies you. Now, another thing is your witness. Can your witness be somebody who's taken under the will?
Right. It can be right. You can.
Right. So under the common law, it cannot be, right? But there is the UPC, which is the Uniform Probate Code, has introduced what we call a purging rule, right? We don't want the entire will to fail because
of
one
that.
of the witnesses is not disinterested. Because all your witnesses should be interested, meaning that they're not taken under the will, right?
Right.
But if it happens that one of the witnesses is interested, the Uniform Probate Code will purge that witness.
Okay.
Which means that witness will not necessarily take no more.
Right.
But some states have also gone away from that. They allow the person to take as long as they're supernumerary. Supernumerary meaning that as long as there is one additional witness. So if there are three and one of them is not disinterested, then because the other two are disinterested, they are independent, then it works. Now, when we say the states that actually allow interested witnesses to take, one of the things they look at is whether that witness would have taken under interstate code or interstate succession. What it means is that if you had died without a will, right? Is that a person who would have taken property from you anyway?
Okay.
So in that case, it's fine, right?
Okay.
But if it's, let's say, your lawyer who is drafting the will, you have no relationship with that lawyer,
right?
And he's taking the house. Would a lawyer have taken the house if you had died interstate? No. Therefore, we have to purge that lawyer, right? So those are some of them. So, and another mistake we make is, so you ask for mistakes, right? A mistake we make is there is a difference between what we call a general bequest and a specific bequest, right?
Okay.
So a general bequest would mean that I'm giving $100,000 to you without saying where I'm giving it from, right? If I say I have two accounts, account A and B, and I'm giving you $100,000 from account A, right? If I die, account A has zero. What happens to you? You get zero.
Then you have exactly.
Because it's a specific legatees. In other words, a specific bequest, right? We are specifically identifying that. Or another example is I'm giving you my blue car. If at the time I died, I have a white car. What do you get?
Well, you get nothing.
You get nothing. So we call that ademption. The gift has adempt, right? So it's ademption by extinction. The gift has adempt by extinction. Sometimes there could be ademption by satisfaction, which would mean that I said I'm giving you a blue car, and I actually gave it to you before I die. So I have satisfied. So ademption meaning that what I was going to give you is no longer part of my estate, part of my properties when I died. But how did that thing be left my estate? Is it because I gave it to you already while I'm alive? When I do that, then it's ademption by satisfaction because I satisfy
that. You did it. Okay.
But if it's just extinct, like I said, blue car, but I sold the blue car and bought a white car, then there's ademption by ademption by extinction. Now, it could also be a stock, right? What if I gave you a stock? I said I'm giving you 200 of my stock, and then the company gave me a stock dividend.
Okay.
That caused that stock to go from 200 to now 300 stocks.
Right.
Do you get the 300 or do you get 200?
Or do you get the 200? Yeah.
Exactly. So those mistakes actually, so people usually revise their wills.
Yeah, that's why they have to
sometimes-
revise it too. As you grow, as you have more children, as you get poorer or richer, as things changes in your environment, in your family, you're supposed to, revise it. You're supposed to
Right.
update it, and you're supposed to make changes to it.
So-
So it's a living will. So you don't just do it one time, and because
and then leave it there.
you can do it 10 years ago, because now a lot has changed. So
Well, so
you're
the
still
thing
going
is,
to be- Mhm.
you don't know when you're gonna die. So you always think I'm gonna update it, right?
Right.
Here's an example. I have 2 children. When I wrote my will, I bequest properties to those 2 children. Then I have a third child, and I didn't update the will.
Right. So you're leaving him
So
out.
we left that kid out. So we call that kid pretermittent kid. They become pretermittent children. A pretermittent child would inherit according to how the other siblings inherit. So
Yeah.
we'll give them some of the property.
Right.
But if you actually so when you have a will and you update the will, the update is called a codicil.
Okay.
So basically, let's say you have a will and then you do a codicil after you gave birth to the third child, but you didn't include the third child in the codicil, then automatically you have disinherited the third child because he was born. Yes,
before
he was
you
born,
made the update. Yeah.
you are aware of his existence
Before
when you
yeah.
actually do the codicil, and you should have included him in the codicil. So
okay.
we support to read that as intentional.
You intentionally done it. Yeah, you didn't want him to get anything.
Right. And that may perhaps not be your intention, right?
Yeah.
What if somebody you gave a gift to died before you in the will? Then what happened? Right? In that case, we'll say that gift has failed.
No.
We don't give a gift to somebody who's dead.
Well, if you die, then you have that person has a child or has a child.
I said that person is not your family member.
Well, I mean, I don't know. If that person that is not your
They may
family,
have a child, but okay, so basically what happens is legally we call that lapse, right?
Okay.
When the gift fails,
That
we
is
say
a
the
lapse,
gift
right?
has
Yeah.
elapsed. Okay. Now the states thought about this. Okay, so they came out with what we call anti-lapse statutes. They are anti-lapse statutes, but an anti-lapse statute only protects the gift for the children of a family member who you have given to.
Okay.
It wouldn't protect it for a friend who you have given. Let's say I've given to you, my friend, right?
Yeah, okay.
I've given you my car, my will, but you died before me. Regardless of whether my state has anti-lapse statute, your children will not get that car.
Because we are
But
just
if you were related to me, if you were related to me, then the anti-lapse statutes will protect that property for you. So there's a lot more for us to talk about. We just don't have time to talk about all of them.
We have so much to talk about, but not much
we've hit on
time.
some very important.
Yeah. So
Right.
we are going to come back. Thank you, Alfred.
Are there any questions, people watching?
No, I haven't had anything. So I haven't had anything. We're gonna have to come back to finish this, and I don't want this to take long before you come back to it. So let's come back and finish it up. But thank you so very much for doing this, Alfred. We appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your insights. And we are waiting to hear the good news next time. I don't know how long it takes for the result to come back, but hopefully, 2 days. So
2 months.
Oh, never mind then. We may not. It takes 2 months. Okay, so maybe we might have a result by the time you get back. Maybe not, but let me know.
We'll come back and do a show before then. Now.
Okay. So let me know when you want to come back so that we can do this. Don't wait till don't let it drag too long. Let us do this when you get back. Let me know. Give me the time and we set it up and you come back and so we can finish this up. But thank you again for coming. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your insights. We are excited, and obviously, by the time you get people could start, hiring back then because you already started, right? So we can let people know how to reach out to you.
Yeah, the only thing maybe I can add quickly is those things are not very cheap anyway. They're expensive, so just so people know. You may probably have to pay maybe anything between, like, for wills and trust, you're looking at anything between $5,000 to $10,000.
See, that's why people shy from it. But even if you don't want it to be, like we said, if we don't want an attorney, we just want you to do something, right? We don't just want you to do something. Just don't not do anything. And we don't know what you want. We don't know
Right.
what you have, what you don't have. As I was saying last time, I have a brother who passed away. I'm telling you, till today, we're still discovering things that we didn't even know. It was a disaster because nobody knew what he wanted. Nobody knew what he had. Nobody knew because it was a heart attack. We didn't expect it.
Right.
So till today, we're still trying to figure out what he has and where he has them because he done nothing. He
Right.
done nothing.
I
And
mean,
it's
so
really
the
painful.
advantage of actually using a lawyer to do some of these things is, like, when I was talking about the mistakes that you can make, you will realize that you can have a will that you've drafted yourself, properly executed, but for one reason or the other, that will may not be
Yeah, admissible
so
or whatever.
yeah, it wouldn't probably not be enforceable. So there are things like revocation of the will. What if you tear the will apart? What if you draw a line through something? Because when people die, what do you find? You find the person who discovered the will, read it, and if something is not in favor
Yeah,
of
they're
them,
gonna,
cross it off,
yeah,
or they do things to the
yeah, they're
will.
gonna do
So
something to the will, yeah, because
yeah, so
it's not their favor.
exactly.
I know. So let's we'll think about this $5,000 later.
Yeah, but I mean, if you pay that money, you have solved
But if you pay that money when you're doing the update
$100,000
to
of
it, do you
problem.
have to pay again after you do it? Were you doing the update to it?
Well, nah, it wouldn't be the same as, because
But you
see,
still have to pay some money to update
you
it.
you have to pay some money for updates. But here's what happens, right? It wouldn't be 5,000 or it wouldn't be 10,000. But what happens is the very first draft requires an elaborate interview and kind
Yeah,
of trying to
they have to get
understand this
your trust and
person.
everything you have. They have to do research and all of that.
Yeah, and
But
writing in a
right,
way that captures the person's intent, right?
right.
But once you have the whole document which captured in details the
Then
person's
everything
intent,
is easy to
changing
update.
little pieces of it is no longer
Yeah,
will no longer require all the research that goes into the first one.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
might pay maybe another 1,000, but also the lawyer keeps a copy
yeah,
so
yeah,
that upon your death,
yeah.
if lines are crossed in,
He
you
has
know,
he has
the
he
law
has
office can
yeah, yeah.
provide. The lawyer may die, but the law office.
The
So
law
when you go
office
to
will
some
keep
law
it.
offices,
Yeah,
there are libraries just full of people's wills,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That they can produce to kind of save your family the headache.
yeah,
Why are we doing this? We are doing this to kind of solve issues that would happen after you are far gone,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so it is important that you have this third person involved who
yeah.
can always, continue to fight your battle while you are
Right.
gone.
Wow,
So
you
we'll continue the conversation. This is just the introduction. This is going to definitely take a lot more
a lot more. Yeah.
to
It
dive.
is it's not gonna be one and done. We're gonna come back even after this as you're practicing, as things come out, we can still continue to come and just shine a light to people, just help because that's all we are here to help. We are here to help. And I also want to encourage some people may have these opportunities at your job. You may have, discounted trustees that will on stuff like this at your job. So look into it. You may have discount that you can get from attorneys at your job as well. But Alfred, again, thank you so very much. Thank you for taking the time. I'm looking forward to the next session. Thank you for joining us. Have a great afternoon. I know you already say hello to everybody. We'll see you. We'll see you. We'll see you on next time. I don't know when it is, but we'll bring Alfred back so we can finish this conversation. So Alfred, thank you so very much for
Thank
coming
you,
to the
Nicole,
show.
for making it happen. Thank you. And
Thank you.
thanks to all our listeners too.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, guys, we are here. I want to say thank you for joining us. These are very, very important topics. Exit strategy is very, very important, as we said. So we thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for considering. It is very, very important that you check because they say $5,000 to get an attorney to start a will for your trustees and all of this about 5,000. That's just, we're not saying that's about 5,000. It could be less, it could be more, depending on how much you have, depending on your assets, depending on how much research they have to do in order to create this will for you, or how much children involved or people involved. So it just depends. But the whole point we are having this conversation, I'm having Alfred here to discuss this, is because it is important. I've seen it in my own experience. I've seen it when a family member did not have a will. We did not even know. It's a disaster. It's pain. But then I also met somebody last time, and he told me that his mother planned everything, even to the music that they should play. And that just made things very, very easier for them. You know what I mean? So I've seen it where there's nothing. I've seen it where there's not enough. And I've seen it where somebody already planned everything. So when you do that, I know it's very difficult to be planning your own death, your own, how you want things to go, because you are gone. Because it's make you think that, oh, the reality that I'm going to die. Unfortunately, it is life. But we have to make it easy for the people behind us. We have to make it easy for our children, our family, because when you don't do it, the fighting with the family members, this person, the people that, you didn't want your penny to go to, may end up being the one taken everything. You know what I mean? So you don't want that. So we just want, I know sometimes people think that, oh, I died. What is the point? I'm already gone. But again, your children are going to suffer through all of this, and your family members. So exit strategy is very, very important that we all need to think about. Myself, I have said I'm going to do this for years now. Few years I've been saying I have to do this. I have not done it. So I'm talking to myself as well. I also need to do this. So let us all think about this. And if you have somebody who has not joined this call, please, this show, please share the link with everyone. Subscribe to the channel if you have not, and also check out the rest of the videos. But until then, we'll see you right here on Siana TV, Chatting with Nicole, AfriCulture, right here at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We know the time change. The time change, it is not 9 p.m. anymore. It is 8 p.m. GMT. So we lost a sleep today. We lost 1 hour sleep, unfortunately, today, but it is what it is. So I'll see you here next Sunday, God willing. We'll see you here next Sunday at 4 p.m. or 8 p.m. GMT. But until then, I want you all to stay safe and blessed, and I'll see you on the next one.